Hello and welcome to the Bildad the Shuhite podcast. My name is Jamie.
And I'm Mike.
That's true. And today is going to be the last episode that we record in the year 2023.
Oh,
But it's okay because we're going to do some more in 2024.
that rhymed.
That did rhyme.
Very impressive.
Wasn't even rehearsed. So yeah, today's episode will be on the topic of vision. So having a vision, how to make a vision. But before we go into that, we're going to do a bit of reflecting on that's just my stomach there, too many mince pies. It's actually my car, but never mind. We're going to do a bit of reflecting on what we've kind of done so far in terms of starting the podcast. And I think we've done about 6 episodes?
No, we've done 7.
7, including this one.
I'll have to double check.
I just wanted to confuse Mike at that point. I thought it'd be funny. Yeah, so we'll do a bit of reflecting on what we've done so far.
Yeah.
So, I guess the first question then in reflection is, how did we come to start this?
Yeah, well, so it was a number of it was one particular talk which actually my home church gave on the Andrew Tate phenomenon, and it was just I was thinking it's really important that the church kind of like engages with this issue and does something to reach men. I mean, obviously, as I mentioned in previous episodes, I've done a number of I've read a number of books in regards to like men's masculinity and particularly Christian masculinity. John Eldredge's Wild at Heart, Fathered by God, and then Dave Murray's Why Men Hate Going to Church, and kind of really resonated a lot with what they were saying, and just experientially just felt to be true. And then it just seemed that all the criticism of Tate that was coming from Christians just seemed to be off and missing the mark, or like partly right, but then missing a hell of a lot. And I felt like, we had something. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of engage with that conversation and jump into that space. And that was kind of how episode 1 was recorded.
For sure, yeah, there was definitely a void of kind of proper, careful, balanced analysis. And the big downside of that is if you don't understand people like Andrew Tate, that means you don't understand men.
Yeah.
I'd be quite comfortable to just assert that. If you don't understand the Andrew Tate phenomenon, you don't understand modern men. And therefore that's the void which we wanted to jump into, which we did.
We did. So we recorded 2 episodes on the Andrew Tate phenomenon, and then kind of did a third final kind of summary of thought. So if you haven't listened to the previous 2 but wanted to get an idea of kind of a condensed idea of what we thought or think about the issue, then you can jump straight into episode 3. And then for episode 4 we did something slightly different, didn't we?
We did. It was more just generally on the topic of masculinity, right? We thought we'd done enough of Andrew Tate.
No. We did it. This is on the prodigals.
Oh, So we came off of Tate. We went on to prodigals.
That is true.
Yeah. We talked a bit more about Mike's kind of personal church experience, and that was good. I felt I got to know you a bit better, even though I know you very well. I got to know you slightly better in a podcast kind of way, and no, that was a good episode. And one of my friends listened to that one. He found it helpful.
Well, it's just, I mean, I think it's current Archbishop Justin Welby said the people that will hurt you most in your Christian life are other Christians, quote unquote friendly fire. And I think Philip Yancey's obviously written a book about this as well, Soul Survivor, Faith That Survives.
Yeah,
kind of the church. So it is amazing just how many hurts Christians accumulate, from other Christians. So I feel it was just important to talk about that, and
for sure,
just very practically, like what the church can do when people leave the fold.
Yeah.
So really simple things they can do, i.e., just reach out. And just those things just make such a difference in an attempt to salve any wounds.
For sure, yeah. Friendly fire is the worst because you don't expect it and it gets you in the bum. Because it's from behind.
Indeed.
Moving on.
More wisdom from Jamie.
moving swiftly on. So that's what we've done. Excuse me, little tickle. And we've most of it we've done really from a spirit of just jumping in. I think we surprised ourselves when we started this Because I think our very first episode, I think we didn't really think we would actually put it out there. I didn't think that anyway. But it turned out to be not terrible.
Which was a surprise.
Which was a surprise. So
yeah, and we've enjoyed recording these episodes, and friends have enjoyed listening.
Yeah.
And as we alluded to a couple of episodes back, it's mainly just to sharpen kind of our own ideas about these topics and further refine them. And then post the prodigal episode, we've looked at, again, just masculine virtues in general. So looked at the kind of base masculine virtues, so those traits which are based primarily in biology, so the strength, courage, competence and respect, and why these are important for men. And then we've kind of moved from that to look at the roles of a man, or 3 roles of man, protect, provide, preside. Obviously there's more than that, but we've just looked at those so far, with a hope to look at some more in the future.
Yeah, and it's great to be able to do this stuff on YouTube. We're sharpening ourselves, but it's really cool when we speak to different friends, and even some people who we've never met, who sometimes will jump onto the channel, the Bildad the Shuhite podcast channel, and leave a comment. So it's been great to look at these ideas with you, the wider audience out there.
Indeed, and I feel it's important to keep the name Bildad the Shuhite because it's a great name. It is a great name. The greatest pun, as I said before. Ask your pastor who the shortest chap in the Bible is, and then respond with Bildad the Shuhite, and he'll be royally ticked off. But mainly because Bildad said to Job what he thought to be true, what appeared to be evident, and was off. So it's kind of like a humility thing.
Yes,
we're speaking what we believe to be true, but we know that we might be off.
But we're gonna speak anyway.
Yes, we're gonna speak. Speak what we believe to be true.
Yeah,
anyway.
All in the spirit of friendship.
Indeed.
Right. So that's what we've done. Now we're going to have a look at the topic of vision in general. So like how to set a vision, the importance of vision. So let's do that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, obviously everyone knows the proverb, where there is no vision, the people perish. So it is vital, because I mean, I'm sure you've all heard before, if you don't know where you're going, any road will do, and you just kind of end up drifting and not really getting anywhere. So it is really important to have a vision. It is something that will sustain you. Again, as we've talked about before, most of the positive emotion that you will experience in life is the moving towards a goal, is making meaningful steps and meaningful progress towards a goal. Not necessarily the attainment of the goal itself, but in the making progress towards the goal. And it is important to aim at something.
Yeah, that's something that Jordan Peterson emphasises a lot. I suppose, in part because, as a clinician, he's dealt with a lot of people who are quite depressed or going through hard times, and one effect of maybe depression or going through a hard time is you lose your vision, you get discouraged, you stop aiming at anything, maybe because you've failed or because your circumstances, you don't see them as favourable. So one defence mechanism, I suppose, is that you sort of throw your vision out the window and you say, sod it, I'm not aiming at anything. At least then I can't have unmet expectations. So I suppose it's a defense mechanism. But the antidote actually isn't to just never have a vision. The antidote is to take courage and to set a vision.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I suppose, I guess the other sort of category of people is, or the other possible mindset is the mindset where things are going all right for you, so you're just going to carry on and continue to do much the same. I suppose the risk of that is that your vision may go stale. You may be less and less excited by whatever it is you're currently doing. Complacency might set in, and then you either just get dissatisfied, or you don't adapt, you don't change, you don't learn, and therefore what you're doing gradually becomes less and less and less valuable.
Yeah.
And one day you get fired or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, we do tend to stagnate quite
good
quickly.
word. You just used one word, whereas I used up about 5 minutes then. Very good.
Oh, amazing. But no, it's important to, as I said, to not stay in the same position. It's like, again, you've probably heard a number of motivational speakers say, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You're not staying the same.
Yeah.
And that's, broadly speaking, true, though perhaps a little bit kind of like hyperbolic to get you thinking. But the point is, if you stay doing the same thing, day in, day out, and then 2, 3, 4 years down the lane, you're not, down the road, you're not in the same position because you're 4 years older than you were before. So it is important to be setting your sights on something meaningful. And as you kind of alluded to, if tragedy comes along or hardship comes along and besets you, if you don't have a particularly kind of noble vision, then you are going to get derailed by it.
Yeah. So you want a goal to stretch you. You want it to be at least slightly out of your reach.
Yeah, definitely.
Because otherwise you don't need to reach for it. You don't need to grow. It doesn't require you to grow. So you want it to be slightly out of your reach, but you also want to give yourself a chance of actually attaining it. So that you have genuine hope, not made up hope. I mean, if you have a goal which is too far away and is just ridiculous, I suppose you'll either infringe your own character, so your goal will turn you into someone who you're not supposed to be. If your goal is too big, like I don't know, if you say I want to become famous, like just for the sake of it, whereas actually in your personality you're quite timid and you don't like the media, you don't deal well with lots of people having an opinion about you, probably being famous probably isn't a helpful goal for you. It's definitely that's not something that Jesus saw. That wasn't a goal of Jesus. He actually saw kind of the opposite, you could argue. But that would be an example of like a bad goal which stretches you and changes you in ways that you're not supposed to be. So be wary of.
Well, I mean, it's also discouraging if you set a particularly high goal and year in, year out continually fail to reach it. Then you're going to be discouraged by that. There's a quote which you've thrown at me quite a few times recently.
What's that?
In reflection on goals is people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year, but underestimate what they can achieve in 10. Sorry, I pipped you to the post.
That's been my absolute favourite little lesson of this year, and I find it so encouraging, because I'm sure everybody is like this in some way. Like at times you might have, I don't know, like a good day or a good week, or you listen to something motivational, or you're in a good place. So you sit down, I don't know what you do, but you might imagine your vision in your head or your goals. You might write them down, and you might be like, yeah, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. But then I think probably it's true. Most of us probably overestimate what we'll achieve in 1 year. So it's like when we're writing down our goals, when you're in that place of really high encouragement, you'll be like, right, I'm going to manage 4 hours sleep a night every night. I'm always going to do my homework. My house will never become messy despite my busyness. All my relationships are going to go well. No crises are going to darken my door this year. And it's like everything's going to go well. So I'll achieve this within a year. But then a few months down the line, maybe you've had a few bad days, maybe some things have come out of the blue and hit you, like a big car bill, for example, or who knows what, bereavement in the family, who knows what can happen. And then you go back and you look at your goals and you're like, oh man, I should be 25% of the way to achieving this. I'm only 5%. and then it gets to that point again. You're like, oh, sod it, let me throw my goal out the window. Why did I even make a goal in the first place? I know I'm being melodramatic, but bear with me. And then you might stop your progress, and you won't get to 6%. You won't get to 7%. And why is that? Well, it's because you've overestimated what you'll achieve in 1 year, but you've underestimated what you'll achieve in 10. Because here's the thing, isn't it? Big goals, big, proper, important, meaningful goals, which go beyond just what you want to achieve. Because if you just focus on yourself, you won't achieve a lot. But if you have goals which involve yourself, your family, your community, your nation, your world, then that's when we start to do things which are actually much more meaningful and worth doing. I've lost my trail, but yeah. We need to be selecting goals which we're gonna stick to that kind of a goal for maybe 10 years. Like if it's a big enough thing to make it your main goal, or I'm not talking about goal like, okay, lose 2 stone at the gym. That's fine. That's like a good little personal exercise goal. But in terms of like what you want to give your life to, if you don't want to put 10 years towards that, well, probably your goal is not big enough. And if you're not prepared to put, if you want to achieve it within 1 year, well, like you need to learn some patience. I would say.
Yeah, I mean, kind of following up from that, it's like we tend to underestimate the power of incremental improvement. Yeah. And as you said, kind of people overestimating what they can do in 1 year, but underestimating what they can do in 10. Is consistency is so important.
Yeah.
I mean, just from a sporting background. So imagine it's like, well, I want to be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion next year. Is well, that's not going to happen. However, imagine I've never trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's like, okay, well, what can I do? Well, I can start training Jiu-Jitsu. That'd be something. And let's say I train 3 times a week or 4 times a week, and I start to do that over a period of 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I'm a blue belt knocking on the door of purple belt. I've probably become very competent, probably become very physically fit, made a load of new friends. And if I've competed, over 5 years, if you start to compete regularly, you probably would have done quite well. Am I a world champion in 5 years' time? Almost certainly not. Unless I'm doing it twice a day, 6 times a week, and even then it's not guaranteed. But the point is, it's just like, well, you started with a humble goal of just start jiu-jitsu, and you've been consistent, and it's taken you, a long way. I kind of always reflect on combat sports, because that was my background, and I was very, very kind of all or nothing, inconsistent with my training. And like when I was training, I was on fire, I was on form, I was doing really well, but then I would have like 6 months to a year off, and then come back and then do well for a couple of months, and then have another unbelievably amount of long time off. But the guys who stayed consistent, who I was better than at the time, have won British kickboxing titles, are fighting on big MMA shows, and guys who, again, I've joined the Navy in the last 3 years. I've took a lot of time off for injury with jiu-jitsu. Guys who have stayed consistent, obviously it's a little bit of luck with injuries, but if they haven't had the career changes or whatever, and they've stayed consistent, those guys are now black belts now. And I'm sure from your own athletics days, people who maybe a little bit of luck wise didn't have the injuries but stayed consistent or came back to it full force rehab wise, have probably kind of gone on to win some more things in athletics. And it's just consistency being the important thing with goals. It's funny. So my wife Kirsty, one of her friends who she met through the birthing classes, her husband has a podcast where he reviews watches,
right?
And he has 121,000 subscribers.
Reviewing
watches.
I'm not sure I have time for that.
But
that's quite a lot of subscribers.
That is a hell of a lot of subscribers. That's
ticking along nicely. So it's terrible.
More terrible puns. But like the main thing that the main advice that Kirsty's friend gave us was the key is to just be consistent.
That's it.
So the key is consistency.
Yeah, and I suppose excuse me, I suppose that's where a spiritual element kind of comes in, because maybe like the message of the world, the message that the world will give us is, you know, you're not really much value unless you're like, you know, a dominant champion of everything. You know, you have to be you know, a celebrity, you have to be on top of your game, and if you're anything less than that, then actually your life's not significant. Whereas a spiritually mature approach would say, you know, God has given you today. Be thankful for today. This is the day that the Lord has made. Be thankful about it. And it's like, take your opportunities on a day-to-day basis and kind of like fall in love with the process.
It's one of the things. So a chap called James Clear wrote in his book Atomic Habits.
Yeah,
and it was just obviously it's a book about habit formation, and it was reviewing high performing athletes, and just one of the things it says about these high performers is that they fell in love with boredom. Kind of thing, that they just fell, you know, they made themselves fall in love with just, again, the repetition, the routine. And again, in jiu-jitsu we have the saying that drillers are killers. So those who drill the technique the most are obviously the most proficient at it, and are therefore able to pull these techniques off in pressured situations, because obviously they've routinely done it.
That's it. And I suppose if you're able to kind of lace your training, whatever it is you're doing, that there'll be some kind of training or learning or development involved. If you're able to kind of like pepper the training that you're doing with kind of little mini goals where you can have lots of little mini wins, it's a lot more kind of enjoyable. Like one thing
really important, that actually, just the quick wins and the little wins, again, because they will obviously, they'll spur you on to bigger wins, and they'll help you endure kind of like, again, if you're going for a particularly tough time, you know, really good thing to offset against losses is a couple of victories. You know, and again, one of Dave Ramsey's points in his book, what is the book called? Financial Peace, Total Money Makeover. So Dave Ramsey's book, The Total Money Makeover, one of the things he stresses in trying to get out of debt, he says, list your debts smallest to largest and pay the smallest one off first. And he said, because it's important to get some momentum. That's right.
Yeah, just a little thing to encourage you. Like my little thing, I'm doing a lot of learning and development at the moment is my odd jobs service. So at the moment I'm getting a house ready to be rented again, because it was rented previously, and you know, the tenant lived there, and there's various things got damaged, so it just needs some attention and maintenance. And I'm kind of focusing on the big jobs first, such as painting and redoing some flooring, because they'll take the longest time. I'm sort of like focusing on them, but then in the in-between time I've done some little things, and one of the things was this is very manly, this stuff, you see. So it was to replace a tap hole in the sink. There was a hole for another tap, but another tap was not needed, and therefore there was just a hole there. I had to replace that with a new tap bung. So this is all stuff I needed to find out, and I managed to do that, and it was much quicker than I sort of thought. But that was an example of a small goal being, and the momentum from that, it did carry me through onto the bigger goals. I was able to show the landlord, look, there was a hole, and now there is not, and it genuinely did encourage
and again
me.
So many of us guys generally, and again myself included, have a fear of failure, which might stop us from, again, moving outside of our comfort zones, or, you know, operating in areas we're not particularly competent in. So if you can get a small win, as you said, like you did, in an area which you're not particularly competent in or confident in. See what I did there.
Oh, I said okay, throwback.
Then like it does, you know, you feel really good about it.
And it's amazing actually, like where I've got quite a few jobs which I haven't actually done before, so I'm not confident to say to a customer, yes, I'm good at this, or yes, I can do this. Like my levels of anxiety when I'm talking with customers about potentially doing that is quite high. But then when you do, you sit down, you do a bit of Googling, you speak to Screwfix, you speak to people who've done it before, and you realise, this is an achievable task. It has been done before by the humans, and actually probably several thousand of them, and I've probably blown this up in my head.
You're not boldly going where no man has gone before.
This isn't quite. It's not quite Pluto. And you manage to do it. You get it done, and you're like, damn. And then you think, well, why was I so anxious and nervous about it? And but I suppose this is just how we grow. Yeah. So that is the general topic of setting visions. I really would like to know, what visions are you lot working on out there? Write in the comments, or if you know us, just tell us, because we're interested in your lives. I think a little bit of advice on goal setting is again, so Dave Ramsey would say that it needs to be specific, it needs to be measurable, it needs to be time bound, and it needs to be written down. Oh, we could make an anagram out of that, I don't know, trams,
Sure.
Someone somewhere else might have made an anagram out of that.
I'm sure they have. But yeah, obviously specific. I want to lose weight next year. It's like, okay, well, chances are you probably won't. How much? How much? Well, how much weight do you want to lose? Oh, right, I see. And it's like, okay, and by when?
So be specific.
Yeah, so be specific and then time bound, so I want, obviously, if you're writing goals for 2024, then chances are you want those goals to be achieved and realised in 2024. So obviously you've got the limit for the year, obviously specific, and then
don't leave it all to December.
No, that's probably not. Yeah, no time like the present.
Quick.
Obviously measurable. How are you measuring your progress towards these things? And again, as we've discussed already, people underestimate the power of incremental improvement. I think so it's a chap called Jesse Itzler, who's kind of entrepreneur chap, and he talks about the rule of 100, and he said basically generally 100 hours will see you get to the top 1% in many fields, and literally that's just 20 minutes a day.
That's not a lot, is it?
It's really not.
It's
really not. So just 20 minutes a day reading will probably see you read around 20 books a year. The average person reads less than one. And it only takes 20 minutes a day. I mean, chances are you spend more than 20 days on the toilet doom scrolling. So you might as well redeem the time and read a book.
Doom scrolling. Don't get me started on doom scrolling.
Indeed.
Questions just occurred to me. How tightly is it good to grip on to our goals? So, you sit there, it's New Year, probably you're going to spend a bit more time goal setting than normal. People have got resolutions and so on. So there you are. You write your goal, but how tightly should we grip on to goals? Should we be like, I must achieve this, so help me God, over my dead body? Or are there other approaches available?
Well, there obviously are other approaches. I mean, I suppose it partly depends on how important, what the goal is, and how important it is to you. But I mean, generally, it's probably better to, again, aim at these things, write things down which you generally want to achieve, but then just hold them somewhat loosely, because again, you generally don't know what's around the corner. Life throws the kitchen sink at you more than you would like, and then obviously if you get beset by a particular hardship, then that might mean many of your goals aren't attainable for next year, and in which case put that goals list to aside for another year and again reflect and reevaluate the year and where you're at, and set new goals. Obviously, if you again, using sport as an analogy, if you've got a particular sporting goal and you get injured, set a rehab as your goal. Or again, if it's looking like it's going to be a particularly long injury, okay, then maybe focus it on more academic goals or reading goals, or do some short courses or vocational courses, and that sort of thing.
So have a range of goals for a range of scenarios, and be prepared to adapt and change accordingly.
Indeed.
But I suppose also don't let yourself off lightly. You need a level of discipline as well to plough through setbacks. Okay, so now, having gone through the topic of vision, what about us and, you know, the podcast?
So what is Bildad doing next year?
Bildad, what are we up to? Bildad 2024.
Oh,
The Shuhite.
Indeed. Well, I mean, so to continue exploring masculine virtues and then how to live out the Christian life as a man. Again, if you've read what's it called, Wild at Heart or Dave Murray's Why Men Hate Going to Church, kind of, or at least just experientially, you kind of walk into church and it kind of almost seems like you have to leave your masculinity at the door to enjoy it, and obviously you know that's not meant to be the case at all. So how do you live as a manly Christian man? I think is something worth continuing to explore. Just living as a Christian in a secular age, I think, is something which is definitely worth exploring. As obviously it seems in the West, it's continually getting more hostile to Christian values and ideals. So how do we navigate that territory and continue to live out our faith? And then just as a personal thing, I'd really enjoying kind of exploring other Christian traditions. So hopefully at some point next year we're going to get we're going to move from audio to video. Oh, exciting and new.
Better shave.
Indeed. I won't. Do some interviews with hopefully some Orthodox priests, some Catholic priests, again get their perspectives on masculinity and Christianity. Talk to people from other Christian denominations as well. What are your kind of hopes,
dreams,
Bildad,
aspirations, and so on? Just to keep going, to be consistent, to keep it, you know, regular enough. I think for me, friendship is always an important thing. I never would want, in general terms, like, you know, like a project to overtake a friendship. I think we've done that good. Obviously, you know, the celebrity that we're becoming celebrities, but I think we're dealing with that well. We're dealing with that well.
We're staying humble.
Not deluded in any way. But I suppose I kind of use this as a bit of a thinking ground for, just, you know, to try and hear what God's vision is for me, and the stuff I'm doing to get that sense of direction, but also to build it like collectively with other people. I suppose that's what I feel that the podcast kind of achieves.
Continue to sharpen our own ideas about things as well.
I suppose I would be quite interested in speaking with people with like opposing opinions.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And ideally doing it in such a way where it doesn't descend into a shouting match, but something which is actually kind of challenging and also constructive. That might be good. I don't just think of like necessarily maximizing the podcast, but, you know, because we're thinking genuinely as we speak about these ideas, it all spills over into other areas of life,
of course,
and other areas of life spill into this, and it's just interesting to see how it all spills out, I think. So have I given us any specific goal? I'm quite good at avoiding specific goals.
Is it a spiritual gift? The spiritual gift of avoidance.
Spiritual gift of vagueness. Actually, I think that's probably from the devil. So have I said anything specific? I suppose I would definitely like to push into, how do we become who God wants us to be? I'm also, interested in like revival, that is to seeing many people become Christians, in a condensed period of time, but not just becoming a Christian, but like really experiencing the love of God, the power of God, the fear of God, and basically changing for the better. Like that interests me. So,
and again, obviously, it interests me as well. But again, that is why I've kind of we're focusing on, or at least in my mind, focusing on men's issues.
Yes.
Because again, referring to those books which I've read a number of times, but basically, if the Christian man, if a husband and wife, and the man is really kind of committed in his faith, his kids are infinitely more likely to stay in the faith. And
if you don't win men, you don't win anyone, really.
Yeah, and I would say, again, being a little bit cynical, is the Big C Church, its focus is on, it seems, like anything but men.
Yeah. But I suppose it's like, what the general church is doing on its own, and then what God is actually doing is always two different things, isn't it? And God always he often picks the most unexpected tools to work with to achieve what he wants to achieve, because then it's even more evident that God is behind it. So I guess if we find ourselves in that place of being marginalised, well, you've got David was the youngest of his brothers, he became a king. Joseph was rejected by his brothers, thrown in prison, and God used him powerfully. Jesus started life as a little baby.
Indeed, we've just been singing about that.
Yeah. The little baby Jesus. Yeah, but God has used him, and he's been able to kind of save the world despite being human, and he's coming back again as a man. So point being that God can get around any limping and ineffective organisation. Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Well, 2023 has been good.
Indeed.
2024. Well, it looks better from my perspective right now.
Amen.
Yeah. Final thoughts from yourself?
Yeah. Obviously, we mentioned last time that we're going to look at the Three Longings of the Masculine Skull by John Eldridge. So, Battle to Fight, a Beauty to Rescue, and an Adventure to Live. Yeah. That's going to be deferred now till next year.
We'll do that next year.
Next year is just round the corner.
It is. It's only a few days away.
Indeed. You don't have to wait too late.
Yeah, no. And I have done my homework. I have read those chapters.
Amazing.
Don't ask me what was in there, but
Well, I won't. Don't worry.
That's very kind of you. Right, so I guess we are now signing off for 2023. I have been Jamie.
And I'm Mike.
Yeah, I will still be Jamie next year, but just thought I'd choose those words. It's been really great doing the podcast so far, and we hope to see you in 2024.
Yeah, see you next year.